Hey YouTube! So today I want to show you a little bit more about the process I've been using to make those armor pieces that I showed you in a previous video, you know, where I was wearing the helmet and I showed off the shoulder pad or whatever. So it's going to be multiple videos because there's a lot to show, and I'll do it in hopefully logical steps. The first thing I'm going to do is, if you look down there in the description bar, I guess that's what it's called, whatever, you will see a link to where I got my Pepakura templates, and you can actually get Pepakura for free. You can't save changes. I actually paid them $30, or I think it was $30, because it's a useful program and I really enjoyed using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over to showing you the actual Pepakura screen, and we'll go from there. So here we have the Pepakura interface with the backpack for the armor that I'm making, or power plant, or whatever you want to call it, depending on your lingo there. This is exactly how I downloaded it from the website listed below. You can see it's already got things unfolded. It's already got basically everything you need. You could print this off and basically assemble this. I found that as I learned a bit more about it, there were some things you could do to these to sort of make them either easier to assemble or a little bit better to assemble. For instance, while I would love to have these cables here and there, really it would be better just to buy some cable from a hardware store and use that instead. So what I'd want to do is I'd want to take that out and take these out and whatnot. So the thing about that is you can't really edit things very well in Pepakura. You need to use a different solid modeling editing program. Now I found one called Meshlab, which seems to work pretty well. So if you want to be able to do editing like that, if you go to File and Export it as an object file, which I've already done, but let's do it again. So that will do it to a file that Meshlab can read. So let's go over to Meshlab. So this is Meshlab, and you can see the file, or I guess image from the Pepakura program is here. If you want it to be a little bit easier to understand, you can click there to give it the actual outlines. And about all I use this program for is just to delete out the parts I don't want. I'm not sure how to draw in it. I'm not sure if you can draw in it. But it's open source and free, so that was better than getting something that cost money. Now, the way you can delete things out is if you go to, well, let's arrange that a little bit better. If you go to this Select Faces in a rectangular region, all you have to do is you drag a rectangle, hit the Delete key on your keyboard, and whatever you selected is gone. Now when it comes to getting into tighter spaces, you can do the same thing, only this time hold down Alt, and if you'll notice, it selects only the visible faces, whereas if you don't hold down Alt, you can see anything that was behind that when you selected it was also selected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete out the rest of this cabling stuff, delete out that stuff, and then probably these side things. And I think I'll get rid of the skull too, just for the sake of making this a more simplistic thing to unfold. What I'm going to do is do that off camera because it's kind of boring watching me do it. And once I'm done, I will show you. So we're back, and I've cleaned up this model pretty good. If you look, you can see that cabling stuff that was all there is now gone. Got rid of the side things, got rid of the skull. All in all, I think this is pretty good. Should make it a little bit easier to do. So let's switch back to Pepakura. Alright, so I've just loaded the model into Pepakura again. You can see things look a little bit different now. They don't have the unfolded parts. I'll have to do that myself. It's got this shaded effect, which I can disable by going there. There's a couple settings that I've figured out that help the model look a little bit better. If you change the threshold down a little bit lower, it'll help your pieces be a bit more rounded. This isn't exactly the best example for that, but normally anywhere there was a bend over whatever the number was, 175 degrees, it would have a line there for scoring or splitting or something like that. I've changed it so it's down to 160, so rather than requiring a score, you just bend the paper around. The next thing to remember to do, you can't do it until you unfold it, but always remember to enable show edge ID, otherwise when you print them off it won't work very well. Now if you want, you can just click unfold. I think the scale I've been using is around 780. But what happens is this. So it's trying to do it all basically in as few pieces as possible. What you need to do is click on join disjoin face, and then if you go in, you can actually snip it apart until it fits on the page like you want. So I'm going to go through all this. I'm going to snip it apart to how I like, and then I'll show you how I try and jam the pieces on to use up the least material possible. Important thing to remember as well, make sure you put it to the paper size you actually use before you try and optimize it. So I'm going to do some snipping and then we'll be right back. So as you can see, I have snipped everything apart to my liking, and I've tried to group it on as few pages as possible. Basically trying to make the patterns as dense as I can. It's no trouble cutting around the shapes. There's a few that are new to me. I've never actually had pieces that span 2 pages, but if I recall correctly, it will actually show where it should be joined. Before I forget, this was the thing that I said you have to do. Show edge ID. That way when it prints off, it comes off with this number. If you don't do that, you'll run into some problems because you won't know what goes where. Basically, after this, the next step is to print them off, and I will save that for the next video. So if you have any questions about this stage of the game, feel free to ask me. If not, keep watching and you'll see more of the process. See ya!